Okay, so we are continuing what we are saying about the Kabbalistic aspects of Shabbat and Tchumim, and that's something that we all feel that either we don't know about or we would like to know more about. It's something that it's not just like out there in the air. There are many times that we feel, okay, what's the deeper purpose of Shabbat? Or what's the deeper meaning of Shabbat, or what we're doing? And we can really find out. Once you start to realize this and you start to understand that, everything makes so much sense. It becomes almost like a river flow of information and tremendous spiritual pleasure. So we'll continue with this as we've been doing. Now, last time we were talking about bringing God into specific places by making brachot, by learning Torah, and so on and so forth. And all of a sudden, when you go to a place like this and you bring God with you, you get tremendous enlightenment, call it, where you can get like a divine advice. All of a sudden, you understand things different. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives you a tzah. The place that you fixed helps you understand things better. That's why it's very important to be all the time in a place of Torah that will give you good idea, good clarity, so you could be able to charge your own batteries and bring it to places that needs to be tikkun. But if your batteries are not charged, your ability to transfer your spiritual current to other places and to do the tikkun is not there. So what will happen as a result of that? What will happen is very simple. You're going to get completely depleted because the lacking of spirituality, the lacking of shefa would not be filled. Well, it's like a black hole, as we said, a spiritual black hole that would swallow you inside. So you need to charge yourself all the time. How do you do so? You always stay connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And then we have in Masechet Avot, right, Rabbi Yossi ben Kisma says, "En anidar ela bimkom chachamim." Unless that there are rabbis there, and there's a lot of Torah there, and that's something that needs to be. Now, for example, you can go to a place that there is not a lot of rabbis there, but it's bubbling in a trajectory towards that. Well, that's another place to go, because the willingness, haratzon, to continue would cause that place to go into the right path, and then you will be charged yourself. Now, based on this concept, when we have also the parnasah kedosha, as we saw from the man, when they ate the man, not only the body nourished, but also the spirit nourished. So by doing so slowly, you are cleansing your own soul as well. When you are able to go and continue the divine influence on your life, you will be cleansing your neshama all the time. So by cleansing your neshama all the time, you would be able to find deeper waters or deeper meanings in everything that you do. It's layers upon layers. You go further and further into that, and that will cause you, or will help you, reveal the deeper you would go, the more connected you are, the more you'll be able to gain Torah. And it's that cycle all the time. You'll get more Torah, you get better understanding. You get better understanding, you become, more connected, and so on and so forth. And hopefully, by doing so, you'll be able to complete and understand the Torah, as a complete thing. All the pardes, all the pshat, the remes, the drush, the sod, everything on multiple layers. It will be the same thing as a kid, let's say in first grade learns Chumash, or in second grade learns Chumash, and then he learns Mishnah. And then he might learn the same Mishnah when he's in Kollel. Of course, the understanding of the Mishnah or the Chumash or the Rashi is on different layers, on different levels, because of the depth that he had accumulated, because he had continuously bringing that light into his life. However, a person who is, let's say, for example, 25 years old, and you're going to start teaching him Rashi on the level of a first grader, would be frustrated because he doesn't have it. He never continued the slight. So that's why it's very hard to teach an old dog new tricks, as they say. To start developing, because those depths, when you didn't have it, you need something fantastic. And you need to drill a hole into your being and to completely dismantle yourself and allow everything to come in. It doesn't make a difference. And the one who was able to do so was Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva was 40 years old, and his wife, when he told his wife, I really want to learn Torah, so his wife says, you want to learn Torah? He said, yes. He said, go learn. He said, good. He went to learn, 40 years old, by kindergarten. He didn't know how to read and write. The reason why he became Rabbi Akiva is because he was able to really erase his self-being, his Ratzon Atzmi. Ratzon Atzmi, initials Ra, bad. His selfish urges, and he said, well, I'm 40 years old, I'm going to sit here with 5-year-olds learning out of bed. He never had this thing. That's why he became Rabbi Akiva. You see it also for Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu says, V'anachnu ma, I'm nothing, I'm not even dust. Avraham Avinu says, David HaMelech says, I'm a worm. Right? Avraham Avinu said, I'm dust. Moshe Rabbeinu says, I'm nothing. Well, because of that nothing, you're able to feel everything inside. That's why nobody knew Torah like Moshe Rabbeinu. And the same thing here. So you need to make sure to continue that. And if you live in an environment when there's Torah all the time, and even if you would be weakened a little bit, the environment will be mechazik you. However, all of us, we need to really really grasp it and to understand that a lot of the suffering that we have, a lot of the misery that we have, a lot of the unsettlement that we have, Jews always wander from one place to another, is because of this lack of ability to continue those lights, to continue this process and to bring it onto ourselves. So therefore we have to do so by suffering. And the beginning of this tikkun, which is very hard. To start something, to initiate something is very hard. As you know, either you're in a state of equilibrium, you're like here not doing anything, or you're on your own path. To all of a sudden get you going somewhere else, to create a vector, takes a lot of force. To get you from a state of equilibrium moving takes a lot of force. That's why trains, when they start going, they don't start pulling straight. They give you a jolt back to get you out of the state of equilibrium, and then train is like Tai Chi, I'm going this way in order to push you that way. So they go back in order to push you further away. Right? It makes sense to you. So now, it's very hard for us to do so. And in our lives, we need to create a certain vector. Vector will be the force, the equal between the force. So we have a whole entire week, we are going in one way. We have our urges and our needs and all kind of shtuyot that we put in our head that we have to have, and with this and with that. Comes Shabbat, and Shabbat tells you, listen, you gotta stop. You can't think about business. You can't think about, and so therefore the hatchala, the beginning of the tikkun, will start from Shabbat. And therefore a person who does not keep Shabbat, or keeps Shabbat in the wrong way, and there is the wrong way of keeping Shabbat. The wrong way of keeping Shabbat is not having the spirit of Shabbat. I'm not working, but I will be talking about work on Shabbat. I will be therefore blemishing the ability of the Shabbat to initiate a spiritual process. So why? Because the Shabbat was able, we know, was able to fix Adam HaRishon, to protect Adam HaRishon. We know by the Medrash that Adam HaRishon was the one who wrote Mizmor Shir Liyom HaShabbat. And if you take that concept of Shabbat and Tshuva, repentance, as being the same root, all of a sudden you understand that Shabbat initiates the Tshuva. The Tshuva is something that we all have to be involved all the time. And why is that? Because the Ma'ala of the Shabbat, the advantage of Shabbat, that everything on Shabbat happens on a higher scale. The things are happening. I mean, your heart is going, this is going, but the interaction of Shabbat was on a much higher level spiritually. And because everything is done on such a high level, and that's one of the reasons why we get an extra neshama, and 1/60th of an extra spiritual entity inside of us every single Shabbat, because it's very difficult or actually impossible for us to elevate ourselves to the spirit of Shabbat. So we need help to make ourselves more spiritual in order to really experience and interact with Shabbat appropriately. So what do? Right? We understand that with this Shabbat, everything starts. So the Shabbat, everything on Shabbat is so much higher. Give us this boost. After Shabbat, we should initiate right away. And that's why it's good to have, for example, Melav and Malka on Shabbat. You're continuing that spirit, like the video that you guys sent me on the Shtibel that you went, was very nice. I mean, you go, people are sitting down after Shabbat, and they don't rush out. They want to continue the spirituality. They sing songs, because now you can have a guitar or accordion or whatever it is that you do. They sit song, they're sitting together. Singing allows you a certain sense of expression, of like almost therapy. So you are continuing this throughout the week. I absolutely have I wouldn't say a problem, but not that anybody's asking me, absolutely not appreciating people who says, okay, Motzai Shabbat, let's go. I mean, there's some communities that Motzai Shabbat, everything is open, everybody's in the street, like they just came out of a concentration camp because they have to go out and eat in a restaurant. External again, not internal. Remember, everything that's done in the house is tikkun pnimiyut, is internal fixing. Everything that is done outside is chitzoni. So therefore, the house is more important. So stay in the house. Continue that. Don't get a babysitter and leave your kids out and go. Sit with your kids. Mm-hmm. Enjoy the inside. Now, as in terms of that, so comes the Shabbat, and that's the hitorerut. On Shabbat we feel more, or should feel more spiritually uplifted. So therefore, if you're an idiot that actually drives on Shabbat, you basically ruin it. So now what you did was a greater damage. Why? Because since the interaction on Shabbat is done on such a high spiritual level, when you actually drive it, you're causing damage on a high spiritual place, and therefore the tikkun has to be much greater. And that's a cycle that never ends. Because if I damaged here, so I can fix it here. But if I damaged somewhere that it's up there, the 6 days of the week would not enable me to fix it, because I live on a lower spiritual realm. I would have to be on Shabbat again just to be able to fix it. But on Shabbat again, what do? I still violate it. So the damage becomes greater and greater and greater. That's why a person who is mechalel Shabbat, right? What's the spiritual punishment of a person who's mechalel Shabbat? Karet. Skila is the physical. The spiritual is karet. Why? Why is being cut off? Why is it cut off? Because he created such a spiritual disconnect on such a high level that there's nothing anymore to connect. And we need to understand that. And there's no way to, there's no really way to, as far as I'm concerned, maybe because I'm limited, to really be melamed zchut on people who drive on Shabbat to shul. I'm sorry, there isn't. And for those rabbis who close their eyes, eventually their eyes will be poked, I guess, because of that. What do you mean you close your eyes? You need to open your eyes and the eyes of the people for that. And if you live in a town in which the town requires you to have a parking lot open on Shabbat, so move out of this town. And therefore you can have a town that closes the parking lot on Shabbat. When I lived on Long Island, many, many years ago, it was an Orthodox shul. They had a parking lot. The parking lot was chained, was closed on Shabbat. Would I tell you that everybody came there by foot? No, there were people who drive. However, the people who drive had to park in the church across the street and in the shul. And there was very few people who actually drove, but there were people who drove. So we really need to understand that. Now, but we still need a certain orerut, a certain awakeness, because we need to initiate something ourselves. So how do we start this? I mean, because Shabbat happens there, but we need to create a certain to be self-propelled, right? A little spiritual RPG. How do we do that? That we do by the hachanot, by preparing. When you prepare for Shabbat, by the actual preparation that you have to clean, and you have to cook, and you have to set it up, you are starting a certain yearning for that. Oh, I can't wait till Shabbat comes so I can sit down. The same concept, by the way, works also on Kiddushin. Why do we say that the woman needs to wake up, that the man needs to, why do we say that a wedding of a woman is on Tuesday night? So the husband will have to prepare 3 days beforehand. Why? Because if he's preparing and it's working, that will cause a certain urgency of like, oh, I want to get married already for him to like her. And then we say not your neighbor or your this, he has to make Sheva brachot for his wife. 7 days he has to celebrate with his wife, unless she's divorced. Why 7 days? So he would be happy with her. We, by this awakening, by this actually working on Shabbat and cleaning on Shabbat, we allow ourselves to initiate that spiritual awakening towards Shabbat itself. That's why the halakha says, and you see, there's no difference between halakha and Kabbalah to that matter. Even a person who is a rich and he has servants and maids and so on and so forth, he himself has to do something for Shabbat. Why? Because he also needs, the fact that you are rich doesn't mean that you also rich spiritually. That's why preparing on Shabbat, I look forward for Friday. And then when my daughters, God bless my daughters, they're wonderful, wonderful girls. My daughters, they get older, and now they tell me, get out of the kitchen, we're here. I say, okay, what can I help? Oh, sit there and do nothing. I said, I can't, it's Shabbat, I need to do something. My daughters don't want me to do anything. They cook, they clean, but I want to do something because I understand that sitting down and, even if I sit down and just read something, that also would affect my awakening. So on Friday I want to do something. I'll wash the floors, I'll fold some laundry, I'll do something. If I'm not alone in the kitchen now, I want to do something for Shabbat as well. And that's why each and every one of you has to do something for Shabbat. Even if you're a big Talmid Chacham and you're learning hours upon hours, what have you done for Shabbat? The hachana for Shabbat. Of course, if everything is ready and kol tov v'yafeh, and you clean something, you put something away, we'll sit down with the sefer before Shabbat, read some musar, something that will touch your neshama and move it a little bit like that. And after you do that, however, we need to understand that the ikar ha'ara, the light really comes from above. However, since the light comes from above, we also need to have a light from us ourselves. So today is Wednesday. I know it's not Thursday. Today is Wednesday, but it's already, we're getting the hashpa'ah, the influence of this coming Shabbat. So I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to leave it with that. What are you doing for that? Are you getting ready? I, for example, going to go shopping today. God willing. I'm starting to feel the Shabbat. Tomorrow, I'm going to ask you a question. What are you going to do tomorrow for preparation of Shabbat? Are you, for example, going to change the sheets in your bed for Shabbat? What are you going to do Friday for Shabbat? Are you going to make it different from you? Not for you. You're not doing it for you. You're not doing it for your mom. You're not doing it for your dad. You're doing it for Shabbat. What are you doing for Shabbat? And that is the question. What have you done for me lately? Have a great day.